home. We are WNST, AM 1570, Towson, Baltimore, and we're making it happen here in the summer heat. Orioles making their thing happen. Luke's been out in Owings Mills all week. I hope you're enjoying all of our program. We've had rock stars stop by this week. Thomas Dolby came by, did the crab cake tour with us in Catonsville. Then Mark Bryan from Moody and the Blowfish checked in. So we did a long chat about his love of the Orioles and our mutual love of the Orioles. We're doing crab cakes all week long. We're at Coco's on Wednesday. We'll be at Fleet Week down in the heart of everything in Fells Point, living classrooms, who I know my next guest will appreciate on land and sea and in air. It is Maryland Fleet Week. The Maryland Lottery's throwing me out on the road all week long. We'll be at Costas next Thursday before the Orioles beat up on the Yankees. We'll be there all afternoon. Jessica Vallis, who just redid our brand new website at Hartford Design, she'll be our guest. She has her own podcast, so I'm going to let her be on my podcast next Thursday as well, like the young kids do it. And then on the 25th, we'll be at Pappas in Parkville. Maryland Lottery scratch-offs. I will have the new sevens to give away, which I'm looking forward to as well. Not that I'm tired of Mrs. Pac-Man, but it's time to get on to Mrs. Pac-Man. And then, of course, later on, we'll be doing other things like the Oyster Tour later on this summer, beginning in September. Curio Wellness and Foreign Daughter presented our 25th anniversary documentary. They've been helping me share lots and lots of memories and stories and old stuff, including even this week, Tom Matte. There's a book out on Tom Matte, and I found this cool old picture that was a part of the documentary. But we've needed Foreign Daughter and Curio Wellness in my home. Now, we skipped last week. Wendy, you were off doing something, getting smarter about how to grow this and sell this and do that and the new space and all that. But are you aware that my wife went hiking in the woods and just turned her ankle and broke it? It's been a painful week around here at WNST, Wendy.
I knew about the broken ankle. I did not know how it happened. It was a hike?
Early, right after her birthday, first day of June. She's just celebrating birthday. She goes out. She's got the water pack. I mean, my wife's the sticks, the whole deal, right? She goes out about 2 miles from where we are, they're Providence and the not gunpowder, Loch Raven. And my phone rings at 9:19. She's been gone 20 minutes, and she's screaming and crying. She's in a ditch. So she's talking to me, and I grab my keys. I didn't even have my wallet. Gone. Where are you? I'm up here. Okay, I'm near the road. I think I can see the road. I see a house. Let me try to get to the house. She's talking to me. She's breathing. Like, I'm on the phone, and I'm like, I thought she's bleeding. It took her a good 4 minutes to tell me she turned her ankle. I didn't even know it was wrong. Right. I'm in the car driving, and I'm like, I'm being the calm one. She's had cancer twice. I'm a parent. I've dealt with all this. She was clearly alive and going to be okay. I just had to get to her. She made her way to a clearing. I got her within 30 minutes. Iced, x-rayed, diagnosed, cast on the foot, the whole deal. And then comes the pain. And then comes the, where are we on pain management? And of course, doctors are offering opioid and that, and toward all this, and and we're like, okay, where do we go with it? And that's just a new one for me and you. I know it's not new for you, but it's new for our conversation. And, what would you say to my wife if we just met about things you could do to, at least for the summer, because she can't miss the stones, can't get around? This is where maybe you come in and we get some education today.
So you're saying if she's experiencing ankle pain as it heals and keeps going.
Well, I'm gonna tell you what she did. Can I give you what happened here?
Yeah.
We have Move Balm, which we discussed. And this is before the Northern Lights went all over Canada on Wednesday night again, and I missed it. But we wound up with the gel. Yeah. And I want to say that, like, I came in at Christmas time with Gina and your dad, and we did and I encourage, it's one of my favorite podcasts of the year, by the way, with your dad. Tell him, I haven't talked to him since that day. I don't bother him. He's in my phone. I leave him alone. I bother your sister with funny things, but I don't bother him. It was one of my favorite shows. And that day you sent me out because I had not thought about but you were talking to Gina about it, and you convinced me. You're like, hey, try it. Aches and pains, you do yoga. This is better than Bengay and Absorbine Jr. It doesn't smell bad. And I started using it, and it, like, I got a bad back. It really works. But this gel happened, and I didn't love the gel because you get it on your hands, and you know what I mean? Like, the balm just became my go-to. We've talked about this, but the gel's a little messier, and it has a pump on it, so you can put it, right where it needs to be. Well, obviously this week we have these products, and I haven't used the gel much because I've used the balm, and I wound up getting, hold on a second here. This is my other balm that's now, like, so I
Right.
use the balms, right? But the gel we haven't used, and I swear to you, last night she can finally kind of touch it because it was purple. It looked like the Northern Lights. It's purple, green, blue, red. It's all these shades, swollen. Uh, you know, so you couldn't touch it. I mean, the first week, but she started using the gel like 2 days ago. I stole this off her desk, and it's helping. Your stuff works at Curio Wellness. I just want to say that out loud, as
Well,
not
thank
as a
you.
spokesman or endorsement person, but you've put this stuff around my world, and my wife broke her ankle, and it's giving her some relief, and that's nice. So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. I would have said in this case gel mostly because if it was fresh and the site hurt, the gel is a much like a gentler application. Whereas with the balm,
Yeah,
part
push
of
it
what's
on.
it's nice is like when you're using it, if things ache, it's like you're kind of massaging yourself
Feels
and
good on my
rubbing it in.
back. I got
Right.
really good at it.
But if your ankle or something is broken and to the touch the place hurts, that's not going to be great. The other thing is with the gel or the balm, which is transdermal, that's where we've talked about, you don't always have to put it where it hurts. You can just put it where you're veiny, and it'll cut through into your bloodstream and move in your body. But she can definitely put it there as well. I'm glad to hear it's helping. That would have been my recommendation relative to, like, do you want to deal with the pain and you don't want to have any sort of functionality impact, right? No psychoactivity, just the relief.
Well, the psychoactivity happened when she took the cast off. And it's the only thing I could think of that would be better than a Curio Wellness product or any sort of even like hard drugs that would make. Our kitty cat has been watching her like roll around in this boot, and she could take the boot off now. And she was literally watching the Orioles. She was watching Cole Irvin deal on the hill against the other night. And the cat came up and laid right on her bad foot, or tried to at least a little bit, to like soothe her pain. So we have all sorts of medicinal qualities around here. Wendy Bronfein is our chief cannabis officer. She is the chief brand officer at Curio Wellness. And, I've written down a whole bunch of stuff here this week for us to like have a little fun and talk about things, even sleep. My wife had problems with sleep because she did start to take sort of the hard stuff the first couple days, and it sort of whacked her all out. She didn't have to work. So nights and days were weird the first 8 days. She's back to work now. And so, the sleep thing's important, and I'll get to that. But I just wanted to talk to you about, like, you weren't here last week. You're off doing stuff. And I kind of kid you. I don't know where you are, whether you're dealing with governmental issues, whether you're dealing with product issues or growing new things or new flavors or scents or this or that or strains, or whether you're off in some of your other states where you do business. But I just keep thinking about the flower part of your business and trying to grow the best stuff, because I keep coming back to that. And I don't know, we've talked a lot about that because we talk about flower and indica sativa and hybrid, but for what your industry is going through to have all of these new products, and it's so sort of new, and all of you sort of find different things, including going back to the conversation with your dad about stomach issues and GI issues and different things. Where's the science on the plant for you, and how much you keep up with? Because I'll be honest, I could talk to doctors and bring some nerds on or whatever, but I always say to people I know, I don't know whether you studied horticulture in college or whether you had a science minor or whatever, but whenever I talk to you, you've clearly, as a brand and for what Curio does and for the industry itself, for safety and the stigma and all of that, you're science forward and all of this stuff, and I don't talk to you enough about that.
Oh, yeah. So, well, the science that kind of goes into the formulation and product creation, same level of attention goes in on the cultivation side, right? Because that's sort of the, active ingredient in everything, right? There's that commercial, like, the best cheese comes from the best cows, right? So we sort of think about that in terms of our products and our plants, right? Our plants are the oil that make any of our products. So we need to start with great material. So everything we do in the cultivation facility is based off of data, and kind of optimizing the grow and the science that we have at play. We actually have two PhD plant scientists who lead the applied science part of our business. They have dedicated R&D space. They're constantly looking at ways to improve the yields of our grow, to best understand and protect the genetics that we hold. And then they maintain our tissue culture lab, which is you can almost think of it like the way you would freeze an embryo. You know, if you were going to do like IVF and you were to have an embryo that you create and you check that it's healthy and then you freeze it. Well, here we're taking very small cuttings from a plant, almost picture like the size of like a clover or a blade of grass. And we're suspending that in a test tube. And we can bring back that cultivar just from that one piece of plant material that we're holding, which is a much more efficient way than having a lot of mothers that we have to keep alive. But also it keeps the genetics much healthier than having large scale plants just being preserved for growth at any point in the year.
I guess the science part of it is where you're taking it and where the industry is going to need to go. And I saw Joe Biden Schedule 1 and all the things that have gone on with it, but proving efficacy. And even, I think of myself as an SAT guy hanging out with the English people, but I don't use the word efficacy all that often. And it's something that I heard you using early on in our relationship. But testing this stuff and saying that as an example, and I'll promote another one of your products here. So I got the empty bag because it had a product in it before, and literally 5 nights ago, my wife's 3 nights in, a lot of pain. She was a soldier about it the first day. My wife's had cancer twice, 155 nights in the hospital, almost died, the whole deal. 2 bone marrow transplants, just awful things have happened to my wife. But like, so she's great with pain management, just in a general sense. But about day 3 or 4, she was wacky from the real drug she had to go to the CVS and get behind the counter. It's amazing how inexpensive they can make that stuff when you have insurance for it. It was 78 cents her prescription. And I don't know what it was or whatever, but so I came home. This was in the bag the whole time. I didn't even know what was in it, right? Because I had the bag and I bought it for her because she's a person that needs better sleep at night, right? In her 50s, had cancer twice, has a hard job, has to stare at a screen, has had a lot of issues. Like getting a full good night of sleep for way more important than me. I'm bouncing off the walls after 3 or 4 hours. I sleep less in life as I get older. So I popped this open for her. I didn't even know what I didn't even know how to hold the canister. It's a unique looking little product and what these are. Tell everybody about, because this is pulse release technology. So Wendy, you've known me a while. The idiot Dundalk guy in me, the non-horticulturist, was trying to explain this to her. And you know what I do now? I'm like, I got Wendy on the show this week from Curio Wellness. I'm going to have her explain it, and then I'm going to make my wife watch it. How about that? How does this
All
work?
right. So, okay. So let me back it up for a sec because you're very timely because our quarterly scientific board meeting is tomorrow. But so one of the members of our scientific board is a seasoned pharmacologist and has developed several traditional drugs, prescription drugs. One of them that he holds the patent on is Adderall XR. So he is an expert in pulse and extended release formulations in a pill. So rather than taking something and it hitting immediately and then, that's your surge and it falls off, having the pill set up so that it can sustain effects or it can kind of pulse the effects at you at different junctures. So the Good Night tablet, when we trialed it with patients, was built using that system. So the idea here is that because in our interviews with patients to understand the issues with sleep, falling asleep and staying asleep are sort of part of the equation. And so
But I
that
wake up to
pill,
pee anyway, though, right? So I wake up middle of the night, I pee. Do I go back to sleep quicker because of this?
yeah. So like that in the study
Okay.
that we did, people who had like interruptions like that, like getting up to go to the bathroom or whatever, they rather than that being an inciting event where it's like, well, I peed at 3 and then I
I'm up.
never went back to bed, right? It
Yeah.
was I did it, I didn't remember that I did it, or like you did it, but you went back to bed. So what happens is you're meant to take the pill. It's just a pill you swallow 30 minutes before bed, and it has an immediate release. That's the fall asleep. 3 hours later, it has a second release. That's the stay asleep. So now the pill is 15 milligrams total between two cannabinoids, THC and CBN. It's scored in the middle, so you can actually break it in half and start with a lower dose if you prefer. You will still get the same pulse system in each half.
Oh, I haven't even looked at these. Oh my God, they just came flying out. There's cotton in the top. I mean,
Yeah.
this literally,
Yeah, it's just a little
um,
blue, the
yeah, I
little
did
blue pill for
little
sleep.
blue pill. Yeah, I was gonna say, you look not too familiar, but it is funny because it comes in a similar canister as pre-rolls do. But I didn't even know what kind of pill was going to come out until like this is like surprise. It's like show and tell on on
Yeah.
the air here. So, you know, your family was in the pharmaceutical business forever and ever, and your dad has talked to me about that and dispensing things that look like pills. But when I come into the store, it's in a wrapper like this, in a container like this. I didn't know what I was expecting to find, to be really honest with you. But it shouldn't shock anyone. And I saw something this week. And you know how stuff pops up on reels if you're on social media. And I peeked at it in some way, and it had nothing to do with cannabis. I think it might have even have been like a Neil deGrasse Tyson kind of scientific kind of thing about like the cavemen had a headache and they chewed on tree bark and that turned into aspirin. And like that's kind of how all this kind of started. The thing with cannabis and the stigma's been such a over 100 years with, here specifically all over the world, but starting in America, it's an amazing thing that all of this is sort of readily available and safe and not having lots of. And I talk about booze all the time. I drank a little bit too much wine last week, had that morning, just a little bit of the hang. And I'm like, oh man, that doesn't happen here. And yeah, I think you're on to something with science. I think this plant thing's going to work out, Wendy, is what I'm getting at.
Well, so most drugs do come from plants, right? So that goes back to our whole cultivation piece in the sense that like the hygienic environment that we grow those plants in is through that lens, right? We're going to use them to make something that people are either going to inhale or the oil from it's going to be ingested in some way. And so, we want this to be a very kind of clean and high quality product. The one that you have there, just to kind of comment on the sizing. So on the adult use side of Maryland's program, you are limited by both the potency in a single piece, as well as the full package. Now, we would argue that those tablets that are medicinal form should not be sort of through the same lens as quote an edible. They're not that kind of product, but nonetheless, that's how they're seen. So the original package of that came in potentially one of two ways, either in a 15 count or a 30 count. And that puts the total amount of THC in a traditional pill bottle too high for an adult use consumer. So when we learned just ahead of adult use that the existing product was not going to be eligible for purchase, we quickly pivoted by saying, you know what, we could put 10 of these inside of one of those tubes like people use for pre-rolls and be able to get it to market quickly. So yeah, it's not the traditional packaging for tablets, but it what allows us to get a compliant adult use product out there. Ideally,
It just
we'd be
didn't
able
look
to
like a bottle that Advil or any
right.
of those kinds of things look like.
Yeah.
That's all. Yeah.
On the medical side, if you bought like a month supply, like a 30 count supply, it would be in a traditional like push down turn pill bottle.
Wendy Bronfein is here. She's got a scoot. I'll get her back on next week. I think Happy Eddie's going to be coming on next week. So I'm going to be, going down to Montgomery and PG County down to we got the Phillies coming in here this week. We got all sorts of sort of boards. So I'm going to have a little bit of fun because I had a Commanders fan on this week. And I thought the only science I was going to get this week was Thomas Dolby. And it turns out Wendy Bronfein blinding me. She blinded me with the science of all things Foreign Daughter and Curio Wellness. You can find them. A Foreign Daughter is in Timonium. Please be of legal age. Please be open-minded enough to understand the science and the education that we're trying to present here around town. And I didn't even give you a chance to talk about Gunnar Henderson and all the great pitching this week. But this time next week, the Orioles will be beating up on the Yankees. We'll have plenty more to talk about. Have a great week, Wendy. Thanks for the education. Appreciate it. Wendy Bronfein joining us here. She is the Chief Brand Officer for all things Curio Wellness. I also have these this is another product, THCV. We talked about this 2 weeks ago, citrus honey product that I've been checking out as well. Clarity, I'm going to be doing some writing later on in the summer, which will be interesting. So I'll be on to that. I am Nestor. We are WNST, AM 1570, Towson, Baltimore. And we never stop talking Baltimore positive, good stuff.